33 candidates, one amazing choice. How her torn shoes revealed an inspiring life-changing story. In Maplewood, a small Midwestern town bursting with charm, the local diner buzzed with chatter. Today, however, it was not just the daily coffee grind that filled the air. The news had spread like wildfire. 33 candidates were stepping up for the Maplewood Elementary School charity program, and among them was Sarah, a dedicated single mother, known for her worn-out shoes that held stories of sacrifice and hard work. Her heart raced as she nervously adjusted the frayed laces of her sneakers, a stark contrast to the polished shoes of her competitors. With each tear in the fabric, she felt the weight of judgment hover over her like a dark cloud. What could she possibly know about leading a community? She imagined the whispers slicing through the air. But deep within, her spirit flickered with resilience. She had tirelessly served plates at the diner and scrubbed floors in office buildings, all to build a better life for her kids. Riley and Aaron. One rainy evening, as the raindrops drummed softly against her window, Sarah gathered her children in their cozy living room. They sat on the floor, map-pinned dreams and crayons scattered around, each creating posters filled with bright colors and words of encouragement. "You can do this, Mom!" Riley exclaimed, her innocent eyes sparkling with belief. Aaron chimed in, "Worn shoes don't mean you can't stand tall." At that moment, Sarah's heart swelled with love. Their belief in her ignited a passion she'd almost buried under self-doubt. A week before the final community gathering, however, shadows loomed larger. Rumors rippled through town about a past misunderstanding regarding her father, threatening to unravel her already delicate standing in the community. She stood frozen in front of her mirror, the reflection of an unwavering mother gazing back. She felt the tightness in her chest, a familiar pang of despair. Yet, the sight of Riley's crayon drawings clinging to the fridge ignited her spirit. "I won't back down," she whispered to herself. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the big day approached, Sarah threw herself into planning a small gathering in her living room, inviting neighbors who needed support, those who felt forgotten in the winds of change that swept through Maplewood. With every story shared, tears flowed and laughter burst forth, and Sarah slowly began to stitch together a community that had once felt suffocating. In those moments, she could see glimmers of hope flickering in their eyes, hope that forged a bond strong enough to start breaking down the walls of judgment she had faced. On the final night, standing before her friends and neighbors, Sarah felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The crowd hushed as she cleared her throat, her worn shoes shifting uncomfortably on the floor. "I stand here before you not just for me but for every dream that is overlooked." Her voice cracked, filled with urgency and passion. Would they see beyond her shoes? Would she overcome not just her past, but the scrutiny of her heart? With a humble spirit and a fierce heart, Sarah prepared to share not just her story but the story of Maplewood itself. As Sarah looked out at the sea of familiar faces, her heart hammered in her chest. She took a deep breath, the scent of faintly burnt coffee still lingering in the air. Her nerves tingled, and she scanned the room for Riley and Aaron. Their encouraging nod solidified her resolve. They believed in her, and she fought back the tears that stung her eyes. "Every one of you knows what it's like to feel crumpled beneath life's challenges," she began, her voice rising as it gathered strength. With her palms pressed together, she felt the warmth of hope radiating through her fingertips. "I've stood at the edge of despair, wearing shoes that tell tales of struggle and sacrifice. But those shoes made me who I am today. They taught me patience, compassion, and the power of community." The room erupted with quiet murmurs as her words took flight. She could feel the energy shift, the first stirrings of hope spreading like gentle waves. "I am here to serve because I believe we must uplift one another. Together, we can create a space where every child feels valued, where no one has to hide behind their scars. Let us help each other. She felt a rush of warmth as she glanced at her children, their faces beaming with pride, but just as she began to feel the warmth of encouragement wash over her, Sarah could hear it a whisper, sharp as a knife, slicing through the air. She is not fit, her family is tainted, a voice said, barely loud enough to be heard yet resonating powerfully in her heart. The words echoed her own insecurities, pulling her back to thoughts of her father, the rumors she couldn't shake. With a pounding heart, Sarah fought to keep her composure. Why should I let fear dictate my dreams? She said defiantly, shaking off the dark cloud hovering above her. Yes, I'm a single mother with worn shoes and a past that's rough around the edges. But it's because of that past that I know the value of community. I know what it means to fight for every opportunity on behalf of my kids. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed in. The crowd turned to see an older man standing on the threshold, shoeless, with a weathered face that bore the story of resilience. It was Mr. Jenkins, the town's unofficial historian. Silence enveloped the room. He had always been a quiet presence, observing from afar. Sarah. He called out, his voice cracked but firm. I've seen you here in Maplewood serving, caring, fighting for your family. Don't let the weight of others' whispers discourage your heart. His deep-set eyes sparked with unwavering belief. You remind us what this community can be. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she met his gaze. Just as she felt fortified by his words, a ripple of applause began, slowly building momentum. Hands clapped together, voices cheered, and suddenly, the cloud of judgment that had overshadowed her began to lift. Sarah felt herself smile through her tears, her heart swelling with love for her community. We can turn our stories into bridges, not walls. She exclaimed, her spirit igniting. The applause continued louder, echoing against the diner walls as she gathered strength from the unity that filled the space, but just as she thought she could ride the wave of hope, another voice piped up from the back of the room. You have no idea what you're up against. The tension crackled again, and Sarah's stomach dropped. What was lurking behind those words? As the crowd fell silent once more, now holding its breath, Sarah's heart raced. She'd faced a lot, but what could possibly come next? Would she be able to face not only her past but the secrets buried deep within her community? What truth was about to unravel, and would it threaten the fragile bond they had just started to build? Sarah felt the weight of silence wrap around her like a thick fog. Every gaze was fixed on the voice that had pierced the moment of triumph. She turned slowly to find a familiar face lurking in the shadows. Maddie, a childhood friend turned rival. Their history was complicated, tangled in threads of jealousy and misunderstandings, and Sarah's heart sank at the sight. What do you mean by that, Maddie? Sarah's voice trembled slightly, a mixture of confusion and simmering defensiveness bubbling beneath the surface. Maddie stepped into the light, crossing her arms as she regarded Sarah. You may think you're on some kind of crusade, but life isn't a fairy tale. The rumors about your family shouldn't be ignored. They follow you, Sarah. Her voice was steady but laced with something almost sad. Sarah felt a rush of heat at the accusation. Her mind raced with memories of whispered judgments, memories she thought she had buried. But now they clawed their way back to the forefront. I know my past. But it doesn't define my future. She said, her voice rising again with newfound defiance. The crowd began to murmur, the energy souring under the weight of Maddie's words. Sarah fought to keep her composure. She had worked too hard, faced too many fears to let this moment be snatched away. Everybody has a past. She continued, her heart racing. But our experiences shape us. They teach us resilience. Can't you see? This community deserves someone who understands struggle, who has fought their way through it. Someone who can genuinely lead. A ripple of support began to rise again, as heads nodded and whispers of encouragement floated through the air. Yet, Maddie wasn't done. What you call resilience, I call recklessness. And you're dragging everyone into a storm you can't handle. The tension in the diner was palpable. Sarah paused and took a breath, the room watching her like a hawk. Somewhere inside her, the flickering flame of doubt threatened to extinguish. But looking back at Riley and Aaron, she saw their unwavering faith, and suddenly, her resolve returned tenfold. "Maybe I don't have all the answers, maybe I can't fix everything," she said, her voice steady now, powerful. "But I believe in this community. I believe in us." The audience seemed to stir, the murmur growing more supportive. Maddie stood silent now, perhaps reconsidering her stance, her judgment hanging heavy in the air. At that moment, Sarah felt a breakthrough. She wasn't just recounting her struggles, she was part of something bigger, something transformative. If we can turn our scars into stories of strength, we can empower our children. The cheers erupted again, this time carrying a kind of electricity that surged through the room. But Maddie shook her head, a subtle challenge in her eyes. "We'll see how long that lasts, Sarah. It's one thing to talk about hope, another thing entirely to live through the darkness." There it was, the threat of reality disguised as a warning, and Sarah felt the gravity of it. Behind Maddie's words lay more than just doubt, there was the unspoken challenge to prove herself, and to uncover the shadows that lingered in the community. What weighed heaviest on her heart was the looming question: could she actually navigate this storm? As silence enveloped the room again, Sarah knew that the true test was just beginning. With one more glance at her friends, the warmth of their belief radiating back to her, she swallowed hard, determined to stand her ground. What secrets had Maddie unearthed? And would Sarah's past truly overshadow her vision for the future? As anxiety danced in her stomach, she felt it, the call to uncover deeper truths that bound them all together, secrets hidden beneath the surface of Maplewood, waiting to be revealed. The silence hung thick in the diner, but Sarah gathered every ounce of her courage. Her thoughts raced, each one like a wildfire threatening to sweep through her resolve. She couldn't let Maddie's words cut her down. "Not now. Is that what you really believe, Maddie?" Sarah's voice was low, but steely. "That this community is only about what we carry in our pasts? What about the promises we can make today? The future that we can create together?" Maddie narrowed her eyes, and for a second, Sarah thought she saw a flicker of something softening within her rival. But then it hardened again. "Look, all I'm saying is," Maddie sighed, her tone shifting from an attack to something resembling concern. "You're all wrapped up in your ideals, but the town knows what happened with your dad. They remember. They'll always remember." Sarah felt her heart pound against her chest. The memories of family dinner tables and hushed conversations flooded her mind. The laughter from years ago, now stained with secrets. But deep in her, the fire of defiance sparked brighter. "I can't know, I won't go through life fearing what others think." Encouraged by the murmurs around her, Sarah leaned slightly forward, the crowd edging closer as if they were drawn into her gravity. "We have so much to gain by embracing our past and moving forward as a community. We can become stronger all together, not just by hiding our flaws, but by wearing them with pride." Aaron's voice broke through the murmurs. "Sarah's right." His enthusiasm rang clear, and people began nodding again. "We're all here together, for each other. We've got to face the darkness, not turn our backs to it." Someone in the crowd shouted, "Tell her, Sarah." And the encouragement reignited the spark inside her. In that moment, she realized something that had been hidden for too long: vulnerability could be strength. Sharing stories of hurt made them lighter. Talking about pain opened the door for healing. Maddie rolled her eyes, but she wasn't the same shadowy figure of doubt anymore. Something in her demeanor had shifted, too. The other patrons watched as the space between them shrunk to moments of missed connections ripe with potential. "Maybe you're right," Maddie said slowly, almost quietly, "but what happens when that light dims? When the pain hits the fan? What's your plan then?" The question sent a wave of tension through the room, but Sarah remained steady. She took a deep breath, thinking of her father's struggles and heartbreak, and how their family had muddled through it all. "I plan to stand up. Just like I am now. I will face whatever comes my way, and I'll do it with you all. We move together, not as separate beings lost in our stories but as a community holding each other's hands through the hard times. An electric rush surged through her, and the audience reacted with claps and cheers. Sarah's heart raced at the sound around her. It felt good, like sunshine after a storm. But Maddie's assessing gaze continued to linger, and Sarah could feel the unresolved tension crackling. Maddie took a step back, her brow furrowed. You might want to watch out for those who say they're standing by you, she warned, a hint of something profound in her tone. Sometimes those are the ones most likely to slip away when your light flickers. Her words sliced through the air, remnants of uncertainty swirling in the chatter behind. As Sarah noted the disturbance in the room's atmosphere, something clenched at her gut. What did Maddie know that she didn't? With each second that passed, it became apparent her journey was becoming tougher than she imagined. A fire ignited in her belly as new questions arose. Could she truly unite Maplewood? And what truths lay hidden in the shadows of betrayal, waiting for the right moment to emerge? As the crowd continued to murmur, Sarah understood that the half-truths within her community were a complexity yet untold. But with each layer she peeled back, she would grow braver, determined to face the challenges ahead. And maybe, just maybe, uncover secrets that would change everything. The claps gradually subsided, but the murmurings continued, like a river finding its way through rocky terrain. Sarah could feel the eyes of the crowd lingering on her, grappling with the weight of her words. She took another deep breath, a mix of determination and uncertainty flooding her veins. This was only the beginning. Maddie's skeptical face haunted Sarah as she stepped back, joining her friends who whispered to each other. Were they rattled? Were they rallying behind Maddie's doubts? The flicker in Maddie's eyes from earlier had vanished. It left Sarah feeling exposed, like a tightrope walker without a net. Sarah, Aaron said, breaking through her thoughts, what do you want to do next? What's the plan? Lost in her whirlwind of confidence, Sarah realized she hadn't really thought beyond these moments of confrontation. Two choices played out in her mind. She could retreat, let the moment cool off, or press forward, carving a path that melded her vision with the community's needs. I think we need to gather everyone. Not just here, but out in the park next weekend. A real town meeting where we can share our stories, what we've been through, what we hope to build. The idea felt thrilling yet terrifying. But the adrenaline pulsed through her. It's time we stop hiding our scars and start wearing them proudly. We're not just silhouettes of our pasts, we're vibrant people with dreams. What if they don't get on board? One of Maddie's friends called out, skepticism dripping from her words. A heavy silence fell yet again. Doubt, that ever-present ghost, crept back into the space. But Sarah didn't flinch. She could either deflect it or confront it head-on. Then we'll face that too. Together. I refuse to believe we're all so broken we can't find hope in each other. Maddie stepped forward again, crossing her arms defiantly. You're bold, I'll give you that. But what if someone shares something dark? What if it rips open old wounds? Then we'll be there. Sarah shot back, fueled by the passion swelling inside her. It's in the sharing, in the pain of it all, that we'll find our healing. If we confront our truths, we'll enable each other to grow. A ripple of agreement began to flow through the crowd. Some nodded eagerly, while others looked hesitant, caught between fear and hope. For Sarah, however, each movement felt like a small victory. Then, a voice emerged from the back. It was Mrs. Thompson, the beloved librarian who had a way of clearing a room with her warm presence. I've seen what happens when people share. It can be terrifying, yes, but it can also be beautiful. That small spark spread. More heads turned, and whispers of support began to rise. But before Sarah could bask in the moment, Maddie's cool laughter pierced through. You think everyone will come together? You really think Maplewood can transform overnight? You're dreaming. The doubt in Maddie's voice hung precariously in the air, threatening to undercut the fragile camaraderie forming around Sarah. Yet, in the depths of her emotions, Sarah sensed it an opportunity. Maybe dreaming isn't a bad place to start. At least it's better than standing still, right? The crowd began to thin, people drifting back to their tables, some still animatedly discussing her idea. But Sarah couldn't shake off Maddie's words. Was it really that simple? She paused, stepping outside into the crisp evening air, the world around her softening against the buzz of her thoughts. What secrets lurked in the shadows of Maplewood? More grips of uncertainty tightened around her heart. There had to be more than just past struggles. Determined, she vowed to uncover the hidden stories, the ones that shaped her community and perhaps even herself. With each step she took away from the diner, a new question loomed in her mind: what if facing the past meant confronting something even more dangerous? She could feel the weight of history behind her, raw and whispering, waiting to be unraveled. What would she find once she started piecing it all together? As Sarah walked away from the diner, the chilly evening air wrapped around her like a cloak, dulling the noise of her racing thoughts. Each step felt heavy but necessary, as if she were trudging through the mud of her own doubts. The streets of Maplewood were deserted, the stillness amplifying the echoes of her earlier speech. Could one meeting really make a difference? The flickering streetlights cast shadows that danced behind her, reminding her of the fears lurking within those she hoped to help. Suddenly, the shadows pulsed like a living entity, filled with stories waiting to be told. In that moment, she yearned to dive deeper into the heart of her community, the heart that seemed so broken yet so resilient. She caught sight of the park, where sunlight filtered through the trees during the day, bathing everything in gold. Would it feel just as warm on that upcoming weekend when she invited the townsfolk to share their truths? She clenched her fists, thinking of Maddie's doubts. Could she really help heal old wounds? As she approached her house, she noticed her neighbor, Mr. Emerson, sitting on his porch with a faded book in his hands. He looked up, offering a tired smile, one that hinted at years of stories left untold. Sarah stopped, her heart skipping. The spark of her earlier resolve ignited within her. "Mr. Emerson," she called out. "Can I join you?" "Of course, Sarah." He waved a hand, gesturing to the empty seat beside him. The sun dimmed, but his kindness lit up the space. "How've you been?" She settled into the worn chair, its cushion creaking under her weight. "I'm trying to do something for Maplewood, a town meeting next weekend. We want to share our stories, confront our past, and hopefully find a better way forward." He nodded thoughtfully, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Sharing is important, but it can be a hard road. You need to be prepared for raw truths." "I know," she replied, biting her lip. "But I believe hiding from the past is worse. We have to talk about the darkness to find the light." Mr. Emerson's eyes sparkled with something resembling admiration. "You're braver than most. I wish I had your courage when I was younger," he said. "There's a reason so many avoid speaking up." "What do you mean?" she asked, leaning closer. "People fear the consequences," he said, his voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. "Disclosure can be shocking. It can change everything. You might even uncover truths about your own family." The weight of his words sent a chill cascading down her spine. What did he know? Was there something buried in her own history that she had overlooked? Before she could dive deeper into that unsettling thought, the shrill call of a distant siren interrupted them, jolting Sarah from her reverie. Mr. Emerson's gaze turned reflective, as if he were peeking into a window of his past. "Sometimes, the truth isn't what you expect, kid," he said quietly, a faraway look in his eyes. "Be ready for that." For the first time, doubt rippled through her, she could feel its icy fingers brushing against her heart. What if uncovering the truth meant unraveling everything she thought she knew? What if it would shake Maplewood to its core? "Thanks, Mr. Emerson," she managed to say, standing to leave. The enormity of what lay ahead clouded her mind. At that moment, the uncertainties of tomorrow loomed larger than ever. She started home, a jumble of fear and determination swirling within. What if her own family had stories that could change everything? Would she uncover them? Would the town still stand united when the truth emerged? As she turned the corner, her heart pounded. What revelations awaited her in Maplewood's hidden corners? The question lingered, teasing her with possibilities. The next morning broke gray and misty, the kind of day that kept people tucked away indoors. Sarah sat at her kitchen table, poring over notes for the town meeting. The outlines of conversations, lists of names, and reminders jotted in her notepad seemed to blur together, as if their significance was lost in the thick fog outside. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. A message from Maddie flashed across the screen. "Are you ready for this weekend? You're not still thinking of backing out, are you?" A wave of frustration washed over her. "I'm not backing out," she muttered, tapping out a reply. "Just trying to figure everything out." With the temptation to toss her phone aside, she caught sight of her reflection in the darkened window. The shadows with which she had wrestled the night before hung in the corners of her mind. She squeezed her eyes shut and shook her head, fighting off the encroaching doubt. What would it take for her to believe in herself, to believe that the people of Maplewood could face their pasts? After a minute, she decided a breath of fresh air would do her good. She donned her faded coat and slipped on her sneakers, feeling the soft patter of raindrops against her face as she stepped outside. The scent of earth and damp leaves filled her lungs, oddly reassuring. As she walked down the street, the wave of determination rolled back in. The park loomed ahead, and despite the gray weather, a handful of children could be seen splashing in puddles while their parents huddled nearby, chatting. Sarah smiled at their joy, such a simple thing amidst uncertainty. Would the meeting foster a similar warmth? Her thoughts drifted to Mr. Emerson's words. What truths lay beneath the surface? Would the intentions of sharing bring people closer together or tear them apart? Deep down, she hoped it was the former. When she arrived at the park, she paused at the entrance. A knot tightened in her stomach just as a woman's laugh floated through the air. It belonged to Mrs. Gordon, an older lady who often volunteered at the library. Sarah waved, and the woman hurried over, her own raincoat flapping with each determined step. "Sarah! Just the person I wanted to see," Mrs. Gordon exclaimed, her eyes twinkling. "Have you got the posters ready for the meeting?" "Almost," Sarah replied, scratching her head. "I'm still thinking about the format. I want everyone to feel safe sharing." "Ah, sharing can be a real challenge," Mrs. Gordon said, her smile dimming momentarily. "What if there are stories that should stay buried?" The comment stung, prompting Sarah to shift uneasily. "But what if it's the stories that help us heal the most?" She countered softly, her confidence burgeoning. "Isn't that worth the risk?" Mrs. Gordon regarded her, an unreadable expression crossing her features. "Just be prepared, sweetheart. There's no telling what might come up." They continued chatting, weaving in and out of light conversation, but Sarah noticed the patterns forming in her mind. She was close to finding a way to pull the community together, the foundation of change. As the day slipped into night, a chill crept in. Stepping back home, a sudden thought struck. The family secrets, could they intertwine with those of the townsfolk? What if the revelations she sought to unveil were also about her? The image of her grandfather's old trunk filled her mind, locked tight and tucked away in the attic. Was there something there waiting for her? Determination surged, and with it, anxiety. She had to know. As she climbed the stairs to her bedroom, her heart raced at the thought of the truths hiding within her own family. Would she dare open that trunk, or would it remain sealed and untouched, holding all their stories close? The questions whirled in the air around her, heavy with anticipation, as she climbed into bed. Could she change Maplewood and perhaps her own life by revealing what lay hidden? The thought lingered, tantalizing and terrifying. The rain had eased by morning, giving way to a sky that promised a few moments of sunlight. Sarah woke up with her mind still swirling. The trunk haunted her thoughts, an unyielding weight. Her heart raced as she tossed and turned, the urge to dig into her family's past clawing at her. After a hasty breakfast, she stood before the attic door. Dust clung to the edges like memories waiting to be stirred. The trunk felt monumental, a barrier between the present and the past. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself. Today was about discovery, not only for her but for the entire town. What if her family's history held the key to understanding the community's struggles? With a creak, the attic door opened. Sarah climbed the stairs slowly, her hand tracing the railing as she hesitated. Old boxes and cobwebs greeted her in a dim light. It felt like stepping back in time. The trunk, made of worn wood and rusty hinges, sat in the corner, a sentinel of silence. She knelt before it, brushing her fingers over the intricate carvings. Memories flooded her mind, stories of her grandfather, tales that danced just out of reach. Was it worth risking what was protected inside? Her heart thumped in her chest, echoing uncertainty. "Come on, Sarah," she whispered to herself. "You can't lead others without confronting your own truths first." With trembling hands, she fumbled with the latch, a dull click echoing in the stillness. The lid creaked open, and she was hit by the musty scent of old paper and leather. Inside lay a jumble of letters and photographs, some familiar, most foreign. She carefully lifted the first package, unraveling a brittle letter with feverish anticipation. The handwriting was neat, elegant, her grandmother's. It spoke of love, of laughter, of heartbreak. Each word painted a vivid picture of her grandparents' life, their struggles against the tides of change. It was a glimpse into their battles, their sacrifices. Tears pricked at Sarah's eyes. They had faced their pasts, fought their demons. With every line she read, the trunk's contents wove a tapestry of resilience and vulnerability. These were stories worth sharing. Her resolve strengthened with each revelation. Suddenly, her gaze caught on a photo tucked beneath the letters. It was black and white, slightly faded. A group of people filled the frame, her family, but not just them. Townspeople stood alongside them. The faces were unfamiliar, yet Sarah could sense their ties to the stories she had just uncovered. The realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. This was it. Maplewood wasn't just her community, it was a collection of intertwined lives and shared histories. Healing the town meant understanding how all these stories mingled, just like hers, just like her grandparents'. Excitement bubbled in her chest, urging her to act. In a surge of inspiration, she pulled out her phone. She needed to share her findings before the meeting. She wanted to invite others to do what she had just done, to open their own histories, confront secrets, and weave them into the fabric of Maplewood. As she typed out a message to the group she had nurtured, a tingling hope coursed through her veins. But just as she was about to hit send, a thought quivered in the back of her mind. What if her discoveries unearthed more than mere history? What if it stirred animosities long forgotten or revealed truths some weren't ready to face? The thought hung heavy in the air, mingling with the smell of old wood and memories. With her heart racing, she knew she had to choose her words carefully. What might happen when she opened the floodgates, inviting everyone to share what they had kept hidden? Would healing come, or would the weight of the past threaten to drown them all? Sarah hesitated, her finger hovering over the send button. The clamor of the attic faded away, replaced by the rush of thoughts racing through her mind. Each word she crafted felt heavier than the last, laden with potential consequences. Would this message bring the community together, or would it tear open wounds that had long since scabbed over? The photograph still lay on the floor, vibrant in its faded colors. Faces without names stared back at her, each one a story she had yet to uncover. She felt the ghost of her ancestors urging her. This was their moment too. They wanted to be remembered, to spark the connections that had been buried alongside their memories. She pressed send, and a wave of relief washed over her. It was done. Yet, beneath that relief lay a twinge of anxiety. What if no one responded? What if it came to nothing? But as she stepped down from the attic, her heart a little lighter, she could hear a whisper of hope, because she would be ready to face whatever came next, no matter how daunting. The day stretched ahead of her with possibility. As she moved through Maplewood, the town felt different somehow, as if it held its breath, waiting for her initiative to resonate. Her phone buzzed, a notification. An eager reply from Rebecca, an old friend who had been key in some of the community work. "I'm intrigued, Sarah. Can I help you with this? Maybe we can host a gathering to share our stories and memories." An immediate spark of excitement ignited within her. Together, they could create something beautiful, an open space where people could talk, laugh, and even cry. Sarah imagined a circle in the town hall, the walls echoing with shared laughter and vulnerability. She texted back, her fingers dancing across the screen, "Absolutely. Let us meet tonight." As the evening approached, Sarah felt an undercurrent humming through the air. She and Rebecca set the room, folding chairs into a neat circle around a flickering candle. The familiar scent of coffee wafted in from the kitchen, mingling with the soft sound of chatter as people began to arrive, but as they settled in, Sarah's heart began to race with a new worry. What if someone shared something that shattered the fragile peace? What if an old rivalry flared up, igniting a fire that had been smothered too long? She took a deep breath, her body tense with anticipation. "Good evening, everyone," Sarah finally said, her voice steady yet soft. "Thank you all for being here. I know this is a big step, but today, we're not just sharing personal stories, we're unearthing the roots of who we are as a community." She scanned the room. Faces that were once strangers, now familiar. There was Alice, with her warm smile, Tom, who'd been a fixture at local events. Each person held a piece of Maplewood's story, and she felt the weight of it all. As they began, the stories flowed, joyful tales of childhood adventures mingled with painful memories. Laughter filled the room, punctuated by tears. Each voice added to the shared narrative. But just as things seemed to flow smoothly, an unexpected silence fell as Caleb, a respected elder in the community, stood up. His eyes glistened with unshed tears, and with a heavy breath, he began to speak. "There is something I must share, the truth about the shadows that have loomed over our town." The room tensed, an electric charge running through the gathered crowd. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. This was it. Would this ripple of honesty heal or tear at the already fraying edges of their collective patchwork? What truth would Caleb reveal, and how would it affect the fragile unity they had begun to forge? Would this moment be the reckoning the community needed, or a descent into chaos? With a quivering heart, Sarah held her breath as Caleb's voice filled the room. "Years ago, when I was just a boy, our town faced a tragedy, one that remains buried beneath layers of silence." The murmurs fluttered, uncertainty dipping into the air like a thick fog. "We lost a beloved member of our community, and the circumstances were never fully explained. Fear kept us from facing it, and fear led us to push aside the painful truths." Sarah's stomach twisted. She could sense the crowd shifting in unease. "I've spent decades living in the shadow of that loss," Caleb continued, his gaze piercing through the dim light. "The child was my friend. It was my responsibility to speak up then, but I kept quiet. We all did." Tears slowly slipped down his cheeks, glistening like drops of moisture on autumn leaves. "But today, I realize I should have been brave. We all should have stood together." A ripple of solemnity washed over the crowd. Sarah felt the weight of the unspoken secrets amplifying as more eyes glistened with unshed tears. This wasn't simply about her journey anymore, it was an unveiling of their shared pain, a unique collective experience tied to their past. That as silence enveloped them, Sarah decided to step in, to turn the tide of uncertainty into one filled with purpose. "Caleb, thank you for sharing this," she said, her voice firm yet gentle. "Your courage lights the path for others. If we could carry this burden for so long, maybe it's time to heal together. We owe it to the memories of those we've lost to honor their stories." From the back of the room, someone else spoke up. "Sarah's right. We can't pretend these things didn't happen. Maybe that tragedy has woven its way through all our stories, and it's time to acknowledge it." It was Mrs. Thompson, her voice filled with an urgency that urged them forward. Murmurs of agreement softly echoed through the crowd. Each voice held the power to cut the heavy knot of secrecy that weighed so many down. A young woman, awkward yet determined, stood next. My family moved here after that tragedy. I never understood the whispers that followed us until now. Can we really let these ghosts guide us any longer? Absolutely. Sarah exclaimed, feeling the momentum building like tides. Every painful moment can be used to propel us forward. We are not our pasts, we must redefine who we are together. The room buzzed with energy as more stories poured out, echoing vulnerability and strength. Sarah caught a glimpse of Riley and Aaron, their faces illuminated by the warmth of community. Every story fortified the bond forming between them, pulling together the frayed edges of their collective fabric. As the night deepened, Sarah felt lighter, buoyed by the courage blooming around her. The room felt alive, a canvas painted with rich colors of shared laughter, painful memories, and newfound hope. They were more than neighbors, they were family united by the past, tackling their future head-on. Finally, Caleb spoke again, this time steadier. We've allowed fear to rule us for far too long. It's time to hold each other accountable. We must celebrate our victories and support each other through pain. We owe it to those who came before us and to each other to face whatever comes next together. Tears fell freely now, but they were different, tears of relief, tears symbolizing transformation. Sarah smiled through them, the beautiful messiness of life laid bare before everyone. It was nothing short of precious. As the evening came to a close, something profound settled within Sarah. They were not just unearthing their stories, they were dressing their wounds and beginning to mend them. Each conversation from this meeting had stitched together a stronger Maplewood. They were moving forward as one, with powerful whispers of change rippling through the air. Every soul in that room understood the importance of togetherness and the strength held in vulnerability. As the attendees drifted out, Sarah felt a radiance in her heart. Deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. Maplewood's journey was a chapter only beginning to unfold. Together, she whispered as Riley and Aaron squeezed her hands tightly. Together is how we'll find our way through any darkness that lies ahead. And so, with hope and courage lighting their path, the tight-knit community of Maplewood stepped into a new dawn, one where stories woven together would guide them, a lifelong journey of connection and resilience, culminating in a brilliant tapestry that blended struggles and dreams. Even amidst uncertainty, Sarah knew with absolute clarity that this was her moment to embrace her past, to stand tall even in worn shoes, and to carry the weight of hope forward into their shared tomorrow. Now, we invite you to keep this journey of transformation alive. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Don't wait not even one more second to share this amazing experience. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and help spread this incredible message. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. What did this story mean to you? And if you know friends who need to see this powerful transformation, share instantly this video with at least 5 people. This is the moment to show your support. Let's keep this beautiful community growing.